we want justice? When do we want it now?
Native American tribes are calling on lawmakers and law enforcement to address the high rates of missing person cases and unresolved killings in Indian country. Last week, California tribal leaders, survivors, victims, and advocates gathered in Sacramento for the second annual Missing and Murdered Indigenous Peoples Summit. They met with lawmakers, experts, and law enforcement officials to discuss possible solutions before staging a day of action that included traditional dancing, singing, and marching around the state capitol. Tribal citizens spoke out about missing and murdered family members whose cases have gone unsolved or unaddressed for years or decades.
My sister Nicole Smith was murdered in my home on the Manchester Reservation in 2017, and I'm here to say her name and to raise awareness about her murder and it being unsolved.
Many say authorities often fail to communicate about the status of pending cases.
So it's definitely affected our family in ways that are pretty much unspeakable of. My parents got pretty ill after my sister passed away, just being heartbroken, always living in fear because the murder was unsolved.
Some lawmakers spoke out in support of the cause and vowed to push for better coordination between tribal police, state, and local law enforcement.
You know, obviously seeing her children grow up without their mother has been super traumatic for everybody. They've suffered from depression, mental illness, other things that follow with that, with the loss of their mother.
In Indian country, generations of unaddressed trauma combine with substance abuse to create a dangerous recipe that often ends in violence. And law enforcement resources and social support programs are too sparse to offer much help.
The missing and murdered Indigenous peoples issue and violence against women has been affecting people in my family for multiple generations.
The high rates of missing persons and unsolved slayings involving Indigenous people have captured the attention of policymakers at the highest levels.
My aunt was shot on the Hupa reservation in the early 80s. She was 18 years old and she died. And to this day, my family does not have a clear story on what happened to her.
In 2019, former President Donald Trump signed an executive order establishing a task force.
When you lose somebody you don't have closure, I think it's like trying to find your way through the darkness. There's this uncertainty that looms over your life.
The DOI is facing a deadline to respond to a set of recommendations from a special commission that spent months traveling the country speaking with family members, advocates, and police officials about how best to tackle the epidemic.
My grandson, Nick Patterson, our missing family member, lived with me there at Lookout, and I was probably the last family member to see him alive. Like I said, he was 26 years old. It's been 4 years ago that this happened, and there's been absolutely no resolution of this case whatsoever.
Commission members heard hours of heartbreaking testimony from family members who have fought to keep their cases in the spotlight.
You're just left up in the air. You don't know. And it's hard to accept.
For ICT News, McKenzie, Allen-Charmley.